Morning students, today we're going to look at a solution to number 5. It's on page 45 of your practice sample quiz at the end of chapter 4 in book 2 of your ma1025 booklets. And it's asking us in this particular question to solve for the indicated variable. So it's a topic called rearranging equations, and it's a good skill to have. So taking an equation and solving for a particular variable. Now in the first one here we have a equal to 4 times x times y times z, where they're all written like that together. That all means that's all multiply. I could have written it as 4 times x times y times z, all multiplied. Okay, so that's what that means. Now we have to solve this particular one for x. So here's x on this side. So how do we get rid of the 4, the y, and the z? Now if they're all multiplied, like anything, anytime I have, for example, if I was solving an equation and I got down to this step, 3x equals 12, what do we do with that 3? Well, we're multiplying the 3 times the x. So to get rid of it, we divide each side by it, right? So it'd have x equal to 4. Or if I had something like 3xy equal to 12 and I want it to solve for x, I still got to get rid of 3 and the y, and because it's all multiplied, I just do the opposite operation, which is divide. So I divide by, right, I divide and cancel, so therefore x is 12 over 3y. Now again, so no matter how many variables you have together, if they're all multiplied, then what you're going to do, of course, is divide the rest of them out of the way, or divide each side by that the ones that are the ones that you want to move. Now anytime you have things attached to it, like the second one here has a 2L attached to it, and if we want to solve for W, dividing by this 2 would be the last step. Okay, we'd have to move this over first. So, but we don't, in a question, we don't have anything to move, right? It is just purely solving for x. So here's this, can be done in one simple step. See, we have nothing else to move over first, right? Because you must move anything that's added or subtracted to the term you're trying to isolate, or the variable. So all we need to do in this very first step is divide each side by what you want to get rid of. So I need to get rid of the 4, the y, and the z. So if I divide that side by it, I must divide this side by it, right, or each term by it. Now of course you can see what happens. The 4 over 4 cancels, the y over y cancels, the z over z cancels, leaving you with only x on this side and a over 4yz. So that's it, you're done. Isolated x. Now in the next one we have to solve it for w, and you can see it's the perimeter equation if you recognize it. Perimeter of a rectangle is twice the length plus twice the width. This time we want to solve for this w right here. Now unlike the previous one, we have an extra term here on this side, so that has to be moved first. You can almost think of it as bedmass rules. Multiplication and division are done last, adding and subtracting are done first. So I move this 2L. Now some people like to see it like this. They actually subtract 2L from both sides, and depending how comfortable you are with equations, right, subtract 2L from this side, subtract 2L from this side, that cancels and you're left with P subtract 2L equals 2W. That's one way. Lots of other people don't do it that way. They'll just move it and change the sign. So when you're adding and subtracting only, right, when you're adding and subtracting, when you move across the equal sign, you just do the opposite operation. Okay, so either way you end up with that. Now what's the last thing to do? Well, I need to get w by itself. When it says solve for w, that means isolate w. So I'm going to divide this side by 2. If I divide that side by it, I divide this side by it. Now I can do the whole side, or I can do them individually. I could do p over 2 minus 2l over 2. Either or is correct. Okay. Now if you're isolating a variable, then sometimes it's just as easy to divide the whole side by it. So I'll leave it like this, but both are correct. So W equals P subtract 2L over 2. Excuse me, and then you're done. Okay, so there's a couple of examples of isolating a variable called rearranging equations.